What's going on, family? I got a special exclusive presentation. I hope everybody has been well. I'm going into great detail about how this moon map actually reflects the land on Earth, breaking it all down and showing you that you could prove this to yourself, proving all things. I'm going to show you in great detail how this works. Before I get into the exclusive presentation, I have a few announcements that I want to make. And after you see the laws that they're trying to pass, you will see while I'm making these announcements. So first announcement. See, we have all been brainwashed and lied to and told that it's racist and culturally appropriation if we are observing the Sabbath. That is not true. According to scripture, Exodus chapter 31, it says that this is a lasting covenant. You can even go back a few chapters, Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 11. It is part of the 10 commandments. But for whatever reason, people feel like they can just ignore that one and keep the other commandments. So you will find nowhere in scripture where it says that we could just disregard the Sabbath. Even after the Messiah died for us, it says that this is a permanent sign of my covenant to my people. So when I say pay attention to the laws that they're trying to pass right now, Trump just said that he's trying to bring religion back to the country. And look at the moves the Pope just made a few days ago. OK, they are trying to make Sunday mandatory. OK, see, the Pope has a little badge that says he's the vicar of Christ. But look up what vicar of Christ means. It means that he feels like he is the stand-in Messiah on earth and his word is above anything that's written in the scripture or anything that the Messiah said while he was on earth. That's ridiculous. Exodus 31:17 says, for 6 days we are to labor, and then on the seventh day we are to rest, right? So when is the seventh day? The seventh day begins Friday sundown and it ends Saturday sundown. So I'll post a little screenshot of the Pope admitting that he changed the Sabbath from Saturday observance to Sunday observance because he felt like he can just do that. OK, and I really want you to think about the blue laws that they are trying to come out with. If the Sabbath doesn't matter, ask yourself why they are fighting so hard to try to get you forced into a specific day and no other day to observe it. So by observing the Sabbath, we are identifying ourselves with the Almighty and that we are choosing sides with him. And he says that if you identify yourself with him, he will protect and guide and take care of you. That's announcement number one. Announcement number two is this: clean eating. Some people feel like when the Messiah died for us that he gave us permission just to eat whatever we want. That is false. Some people say that the Messiah declared all foods clean using Mark chapter 7, verse 19. That is not true. All you have to do is read a few verses later where the Messiah, Yahusha, he says, what makes a person unclean is what comes from within his heart. What were they talking about? They were talking about the importance of washing their hands before eating. It had nothing to do with giving the green light to eating pork or anything like that. They had us all brainwashed into thinking that food was so nutritious and delicious and all of that, but it's the most parasitic food that you can eat. And all you have to do is listen to what Yahusha said. He said, let my Father's will be done, not mine. So these foods that are bottom feeders were never made clean. So it is a person's heart condition from the inside that can make him unclean, not the food that he puts in. That does not give the green light to just eat whatever you want. Pork wasn't even the discussion here. He was simply talking about how it's more important to pray over your food and have a good heart over just mechanically washing your hands. So let's get to the moon map. Okay, so when I'm doing my presentation about the moon map, obviously Africa really stands out as to not looking like it looks on the globe. The globe that they gave us of Africa and the moon map Africa obviously don't look nothing alike. And that's by design. You got to look up pre-Renaissance, pre-colonial maps. OK, and it was very hard. One of the hardest maps that I've ever had to find. And it's not by accident. OK, you have to look up the Cape of Good Hope, Cape Peninsula. OK, they show Africa really cut off. And when you put this missing piece back to Africa, it fits like a puzzle. The moon map is absolutely correct on the geography of Africa. And this little piece right here that they hid from us was the missing link the whole time. But I really want you to think about the motivation behind hiding the geography of Africa. OK, it's racist, but it's also because they didn't want you to know where you live. OK, if you look at the true geography of Earth's map, look at how small America really is and look how big Africa is. Now, a lot of this has to do with symbolic meaning of the domination of the northern countries. They feel like their authority outshines the African authority, so they wanted to represent that on the map. But if you look at this missing piece, the Cape of Good Hope, the Cape Peninsula, it restores Africa's true geography. So why is this really important? So I remember a lot of people used to walk around with the African chain and have the African logo everywhere, and they really want to push and sell that idea of Africa's geography, but that is not the way it looks. So I want you to imagine what they're thinking when they see you wearing that chain or that hat and they shows Africa all cut off. They know full well that's not the way it looks. This is not an accident, y'all. They are laughing. Okay, so we need to expose that. Real geography is on the moon, and this missing piece right here proves it. Let's get to the presentation. I'm very excited, and I want to thank Quinn one more time for having me on this show. The full interview is on this page, but I'm going to chop up the interview, and I'm going to put little commentary like I'm doing right now in, so you can watch it on my page as well. All right, everybody, friends, family, my people, enjoy the presentation. What's going on, everybody? This is exclusive information. I've been working on this presentation exclusively for this channel right here, and I'm glad that you all are tuning in. And all right, so real quick, I'm gonna run through it a little quicker, but maybe later I can come on the show again and we will be able to break it down a little bit more. So Earth is created special. From the top right, you see these are official pictures from NASA, but I really want you to look at 1997 and I want you to look at 2012. Look at the United States. The United States literally grew by 3x. How is that possible? Let me give you a hint. It's not possible. We have a firmament, everyone. All right. So the only time we get to see the Earth curve is when you put on the NASA lens. Okay. That's the only time you see the Earth curve. They don't want to tell you that, but it's absolutely true. There has never been any curve detected ever. So what does it matter? You even hear some Christians say, what does it matter if the Earth is flat or round? Well, what they don't want to tell you is it matters a lot. Imagine not knowing where you live. You are more open to suggestion because you are limited, because you don't even know where you at, right? The circular Earth is called the heliocentric model. Do you know who Helio is? Helio is a pagan sun god. Look at the picture right there. He is a sun god. Atheists usually believe that flat Earth is stupid. They say that, there's, randomness, meaningless, they get really apathetic. Not talk about all of it. I'm just saying that you fall more into that category if you think that life was created randomly and it doesn't matter. You can get hit by an asteroid at any moment in time. That is not true. We are protected. We have a firmament above our heads. All right. So this is what they told us. What they told us is we have Earth curvature, right? So 1 square mile, you'll get 0.666 feet. They say that Earth is tilted at 66.6 degrees. How do we get to 66.6? Well, because they tell you that the Earth is tilted at 23.4 degrees. If you're looking straight up, that's 90 degrees. So 90 degrees minus 23.4 comes out to 66.6. How convenient, right? All right. They also said that the sun is 93 million miles away. I'm just coming with some quick hits. They say the sun is 93 million miles away. How'd they get that? They got that by supposedly shooting a radar at the sun, which is not 93 million miles away, they claim, and then bouncing it back and receiving a signal. What they don't want to tell you is on that device that they are waiting for the signal, it's already showing the signal before the test even start. The background noise on the device is already active before the test start. And then they just start the timer and stop the timer at an arbitrary rate. And they say, well, that was the sun. The device never changes. All right. So what they used to tell us is go to the beach if you want to see the sun set. You'll see the sun go over the other side of the earth, and they will tell you that the sun is setting behind a physical curvature. Well, we got high altitude balloons that can go up to 127 feet, right? And we don't experience any curvature. So how can you, standing on the beach, see curvature with the sun going behind the physical earth? It's impossible. Think about what I just said.
You can't see Earth curvature at 127,000 feet, but if you're just standing on the beach and you're 6 feet tall, you can see the Earth curve. Impossible. All right, so NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. I put the snake right here on the right. They have to tell you who they are. People, wake up. You got to wake up. They got to tell you who they are. So why don't everybody just fly off into space? What about gravity? Well, this is very interesting, and I hope this is able to stay up on your channel. This is very important. Why do we all stay down? Well, we all stay down to the ground is because the floor is a grounding mechanism, and we have a positive charge coming downward from the air. So we have a equipotential vertical electrical field, which is measurable. They increase at 100 volts per meter you climb. So as you can see, the guy, once you stand under these lines, the electrical field curves around your body. But look at the zero above this guy's head because he is standing on the ground. So he has a 0-volt charge, right? We have a steady current coming down from the atmosphere. It is measurable and it increases 100 volts per meter you climb. Everything in existence, from liquids, solids, gases, everything is electrostatic in nature, including us. So if you have a downward current of electrostatics and you and everything you know in existence are made up of electrostatics, you can see why we have a downward bias. We have a wave of electrostatics coming downward. And if you look at this chart right here, it's level. It's very equal. Look on the left. It's very equal. So if it's not disturbed, it levels out. That's the way Yahuwah created it. We have a very level electrical field. Sorry if I'm going a little fast, but I just want to show you the moon map.
The other way now, and let me zoom in, and we're going to go from Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is right over the right ear. Oh, convenient. It just so happened to be over the right ear on the moon map. Let's continue navigating. Let's see. I don't want to drop the pen. Okay, middle of nowhere. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit. Let's get a little crazy. All right. Still really crazy. Kolkata. Can we find Kolkata? Where's Kolkata? Should be right here by the left ear. Kolkata. Oh, there it is. There it is. And we're just above the left ear. Let me zoom out, show you. Yes, the moon map is absolutely correct. And let's make our way back down towards Sri Lanka. Take a look. All right. Getting back towards the nose and the tip, and it kind of goes the other way, but we're not here for that. All right. So that's Bay of Bengal. My baby.
All right. So that is the moon map. So how does it work? I will go into more detail soon, but I will just give you a brief overview of how the moon map actually works. We have a greater light and a lesser light that is within our physical firmament. Look at this picture that I have right here where it has multi-layers of firmament. That's not what we have. I'll put this up here because there are people that are using this as a depiction as to what we experience. This is false. As you can see, the little earth right there, and then you got the sun and moon looks like it's above a few different physical barriers. We are not looking at the sun and the moon through gallons and gallons of water. You have crystal clear pictures of the moon and its craters, or what seems to look like craters. We are not looking at it through water. This is a false depiction. I covered up the guy's name because I didn't want to. I don't want to be offensive to anybody specifically, but this is a false depiction. We have one physical structure above our heads, like the scriptures talk about. Imagine it like a cake. You can have a cake that's multi-layered. It's still one cake, You have layers within the cake. Our layers are atmospheric. We have superfluids. Superfluids rise to the top of its container. So how does the moon map work? The moon map works like this. The actual physical sun and moon are much higher up than what we see above our community. That is not the actual physical sun or the actual physical moon. That is a node. Some people say it is a projection or whatever, but still works the same way. Imagine it like a kaleidoscope effect, right? The firmament is crystalline. So the much higher physical bodies are much higher up. And because of the crystalline facets, the image of the sun and the moon travels down the facets, and it displays itself on the superfluids above our heads. That's why no matter how high you go, you can never get above the sun or the moon. And we have pretty high. We have some technology. We can't get above it. We can't get above it because it's always projected onto the screen, which is the superfluids above. And that's why you have different apparent positions at the same time. If you ever did the crystal light dome test, you could have one single point of light. And if you wave the light above the crystalline structure, you can see like 4 different apparent positions from your one light source. So are you spraying 5 lights, or are you just spraying one or pointing one and it's being refracted down into the body of the firmament? That's the same way that it works. All right. So a quick hit. We have dual star trails. Look at the top. This is just some of the impossible things that we have, that we experience. That's impossible if we are living on a Earth that is rotating around the sun. We have something called dual star trails. You can see the sky. You can see the night sky with the stars rotating counterclockwise and also clockwise. And also in the middle, you see the stars going straight up. This is impossible if you are looking in one direction, facing one direction, and you're seeing all of this going on. But supposedly the Earth is just spinning at 1,000 miles an hour or whatever they said. It's impossible. The things above our head are moving. We are not moving. I put this picture of the moon on the left because this is what I got when I took a picture of the moon from my phone. And as you can see, it looks pretty, let's just say suggestive. Okay. When you take a picture with your phone, they are putting like a Snapchat filter over your camera because they do not want you to have crystal clear pictures of the moon. It looks very phallic, right? But look at the bottom of the moon. You can see it's flat. And I purposely left extra black area below the moon and on the sides of the moon because I want you to see that this is not me cutting the image off. This is what appeared when I took the picture. You have right angles on this moon, and there's some, yeah, okay. You see what I see. It looks absolute crazy. All right. Another thing that we have, if you look on the bottom right, you see a hot spot on the surface of the Earth with the sun above it, or the apparent sun above it. Okay. This is impossible if the sun is impossible if the sun is 93 million miles away. You would not have any hot spot. All the sun rays will come in together and distribute equally over the surface of the Earth. You would not have a hot spot. All right. So quick hits. On the left, we got the false column. On the right, we got the true column. Okay. I'm going to wrap this up right here. I appreciate your time, brother. All right. So scientists took the curvature that we experienced with our eyes and said it was the ground actually curving, which is false. There has never been any curvature detected on the Earth at all. We have long distance rays, lasers. We have long distance observations. There's no curvature going on. We have peaks and valleys, so don't get it twisted, but everything is topographical. Okay. There is a cycle of the moon where we have 2 days where you can't find the moon nowhere on Earth. Now, I want you to think about how impossible that is. If the moon is a dirty rock and is just staying in orbit around us, at some point somewhere, somebody should be able to find this moon. But for 2 days, it cannot be found. Why is that? Well, just like everything else seeks equilibrium, so does the moon. For about half the month, it is charging. And for the second half of the month, it is discharging. So when the Bible says it gave out all of its light, that's exactly what it means. It discharged, and it is not going to appear for a couple of days until it is starting to show its crescent. So the third falsehood at the bottom left, they say that the bending and warping of space-time causes nothingness to curve, and that's what creates gravity. That is false. Like I said earlier, with the electrostatics, everything you can think of on Earth is made up of electrostatics, everything. And we have electrostatic current coming down from the sky. This current, you can also utilize it to run. Look, I don't want to get your channel dinged or anything like that, but there's free electricity. All right, I'm going to just say it. There's free electricity. All you need is a copper wire and some kind of conductor where you can draw that electrostatic energy into the wire, and you can run small static electricity motors or a small light bulb. We have free energy coming down, and it's measurable. Think about all these old churches and old architecture, all these big tall beams at the top of their churches, and these elites architecture. Think about it. What do you think those light pole or those poles are at the top? All right, they're harvesting free energy. People, look at some of the old.
I was going to say that's one of the theories I believe with the Great Pyramid in Giza is that the capstone is missing. And like they claim, I think they have the capstone in some museum, but that's not the real capstone. But the original capstone is missing off of the Great Pyramid. There's a theory that it's hidden because that's like the control part of it, which makes it work. And they cutting this off from the fact of the Great Pyramid in Giza was a power generator that would generate wireless free energy, which they don't want us to have that. I mean, that's just
see that.
Yeah, I have some information on it. I'll send you. But there's so the whole thing with Egypt, they liked about everything about it. Those structures weren't built by the Egyptians, not like the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. Those were already there way before the Egyptian population, and dates back more to the time of Atlantis for those that subscribe to that. But anyway, so they say they believe that's a power generator that would generate free electricity, and I think Tesla said that too. Not Elon Musk, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, but Nikola Tesla. I think he had that same belief that the Great Pyramid was free energy. So no, just to go on, you're saying there's lots of free energy out there, but they can't make money off of it. They can't control people without free energy. So it's something that's being hidden from us.
Absolutely, and you hit the nail on the head, man. They control you through keeping you enslaved to paying this light bill. My light bill for this one apartment that I'm living in sometimes can get up to $300, and it's a 1-bedroom apartment. So you would think that I'm sleeping with all the lights on. You know what I mean? So not the case. They control you through your funds. All right. So like I said earlier, we have dual star trails. That makes it impossible for us to be living on a spinning water ball Earth, hurling through space. Another thing that you can notice is the sun. If you have the right type of optics with the zoom, you can zoom into the sun when you go into the beach. You're on a nice clear day, zoom in. You will start to notice that the sun actually sets above the water and above any geography. Think about that. The sun sets above into the vanishing line. Well, what's the vanishing line? The vanishing line is an invisible horizon. Things start to mirror itself before going into this vanishing line. You can see birds that go down and dip into the water. If they're close to that vanishing line, you will see a bird going into the water, but you'll see a bird coming out of the water. It's just mirroring itself. You see long distance boat observations. And if they're out at the right type of angle, long distance boat observations, and the boat will literally look like it's flying because the water that is directly on is already invisible due to the vanishing line. But this is a great example because you know that this big cruise ship is not just hovering in midair. There's something else going on. Now, the area of below the boat looks exactly like the area above the boat because it's mirroring itself. The water is there, you just can't see it. So is the sun. The sun is just going straight. It's not curving underneath the earth. All right, so we also have air pressure on this earth and at a gradient. Air pressure requires a physical container. If you think about putting air in your tires, you need that physical container to maintain the air. You can move things with pressure without having a container, but ultimately, even that is contained in the house or in the building or in the lab that you're at. Everything requires a physical container. Well, how do we know that for sure? Well, we have different air pressure maps on this earth. If you are higher up in elevation, say like if you are in Antarctica, you have less layers above your head, so you have less air pressure. But if you go to Australia, you are at a lower elevation, so you have more layers above your head. Well, layers from what? Is gauging from a physical point. And this is, look up world map air pressure. You'll be able to see it. I want to wrap up right here. I want to say, for the people who study the Bible and read the Bible, do not skip over Genesis. It clearly says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6 through 8, that the firmament was created on day 2. And then at Genesis chapter 1, verse 14 through 19, it says the sun was created on day 4. So how are you believing NASA that the earth is chasing the sun through an empty vacuum of nothingness, a gas ball that somehow maintains gas in a vacuum, which is also impossible? But as you can see, it says that the sun was put inside of the firmament, the physical structure on earth, on day 4. The earth was created first, people. And in closing, I would like to say thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I hope this is edifying. I want to thank Yahuwah. I don't take any of this information as my own. This has been given to me from the Creator, and I thank him. I'm going to log out, put that back on there, and I appreciate you having me on here. All glory go to Yahuwah, and I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, well, it was a pleasure having you on here because I do get sick of talking about the type of stuff on my channel. Like, I know it's important to expose it, but it's a nice break to not always be in such that dark, evil, satanic stuff that I, unfortunately, I'm good at exposing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do have one experience I want to share real quick. So I'll admit I haven't really looked so much into the flat earth stuff. Clearly it sounds absolutely stupid, but one thing I think is interesting, and I'll put this on the screen, is because one thing I do know is that these people, these evil people, elite, call them whatever you want to call them, they do ritualistically, they have to tell you stuff. So when I looked into the Illuminati card game, because I've gone through that many, many times, there's a flat earth card and it says something like, and I'll put it on the screen when I post the video, but each Illuminati card has like a little, like some information on it. And that card says something like, people laugh at them, but they know something. So, and again, this is a 1995. Yeah. It was way before that whole movement started. So like, I have to just be honest and say, well, I know like that there's something to it. And then I also just think that it's weird that if the flat earth thing is tinfoil hat stuff, then why does the United Nations use that as their logo? Like the flat earth map. That's another weird thing, because if it's tinfoil hat stuff, why would a serious organization like that say, we're going to use this map and put it out there as our logo? So that's another a strange thing.
Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
That logo is strategically placed there to just feed a couple of breadcrumbs to the people that are waking up to the flat earth. But that map is also deceptive. When they show that ring of ice around that map, that is deceptive. That is not the way it looks. If you want the real geography of Earth, it's in the moon, and I prove it left and right. We dictate and we navigate just using the moon. So I want to say that's closer than the water ball Earth that they give us when we're born, but it's still a distraction. The real geography is on the moon. The dark spots are the land. The lighter areas are water.
Yeah, and I had one more experience too that it's something I went through personally. So I went to the UK, and first time I flown overseas. So at one point, it was daytime, like the sun was out, and I was on Delta. I think that was the flight line I was on. But anyway, so every seat has a little like computer in front of you where you can play music and watch TV, like a little screen on the back of the seat in front of you. So this airline has a GPS with the plane on it. So it shows like if you want to click where you're going, it shows the plane, and it has a GPS of as you're moving across the United States and overseas. So it's like a Google Maps that they have right in front of you that you can look at. So it's kind of cool to look at. Not all airlines have them. So anyway, so there's one point that the flight attendant asked me to close my window. Oh, can you shut your window, please? I'm like, okay. I didn't even think much about it. But I like to have the window open. Like if it's daytime, like that's the whole point of flying is like I don't want to see stuff. So anyway, it wasn't a big deal. And I understand like if it's nighttime, if it's dark and your window's open and there's a reflection and maybe it's distracting people, but in the daytime is like, what's the big deal? Like if it's light out and I have this, so I didn't think much of it. So anyway, not thinking much of it because I'm the only one that had my window open. So for some reason, I just decided, oh, let me look out for. I don't remember what it was that prompted me to look out. So I looked out, and then when I looked at the GPS, all that I can say is when I looked out the window, we were nowhere where we should have been. That's all I'm going to say. But all that I can say is this: like I can't say that the GPS didn't malfunction or something. I can't say what was going on. I just know that where it was showed on the screen, we were going over like water or something like that. Whatever it was, when I looked out, we were somewhere completely different. That's all I'm going to say. And that's just my own experience, what I seen. And I can't help to think that, like, when I'm suspicious of things, and I just had to think, like, are they sometimes instructed to tell people not to shut your windows, like, when they're flying over certain questionable places? Like, I don't know. I thought it was weird that she asked me to shut my window.
No, you're absolutely right. And I tell you, they fly these airplanes in a grid-like pattern. So imagine like a chessboard with a bunch of squares, like a grid. So they, depending on where you're going and coming from, you have to fly in a grid pattern. So you'll go 3 squares up, 3 squares to the right, because all of this is embedded with how long it should take you to get there if you live on a circular Earth. So they fly in grid patterns. They don't just fly straight there, which will be more fuel efficient. It's all about making money, right? Make your shares higher and all. No. They don't care how much gas they spend. They're not even really putting that much gas in these planes. They get on the airplane and then they just kind of ride the airplane, right? That's number one. Number two is I want to say how impossible it is to have the geography of Earth matching anything on the moon. If you can navigate using the moon, like I showed you, the Earth cannot be a ball.
And just one more rabbit hole I'll throw in at the end of this video is if you watch the Truman Show movie, and Truman has like a fake world that they put him in, and he thinks that that's the whole world, but it's all fake. That there's one small part where the guy controlling Truman's world has a dome like Earth that's Truman. So on his desk, he's got there's like a dome shape, and then the part that Truman's on is flat and it's covered by a dome. So it's just interesting because, like I said, it's like the Illuminati card game is I'll admit, yeah, it sounds stupid because we were trained to believe a certain way. So it sounds stupid because we're going against how we're programmed. But those clues do mean something, and that's what I know for a fact. They're not going to put a card like that in that card game. And the thing with the Truman Show too, like so that's weird.
I'll tell you one thing that also sounds stupid is if you look at Einstein's paper, he says every time they try to measure the Earth moving, the measuring device itself shrinks and time slows down just enough to make the Earth sound and feel like it's not moving or appear like it's not moving. So I want you to think about that. It just so happens every time they go out there with their measurement device, that's the moment that time slows down and the measuring stick itself shrinks so it appears like we're not moving. That's actual, factual, paper, documented evidence of what he said. And somebody tried to correct him like, hey, you don't mean that the actual measuring device actually shrinks down, Einstein, right? He was like, no. I do mean that. We do shrink the measuring device because that's the only way we can see that nothing's moving. This is actual paperwork, but they don't teach you this in school. So I appreciate the hard work you doing out there, waking up the minds to this ridiculous thing. And I appreciate you having me on the show, man.
Yeah, no problem. And just one more real quick thing I want to explain to my audience is that, so I might not explain this perfectly, but I found out a few years ago that like all the pictures that we see of Earth, that they admit those aren't actual real photographs. So it's something like, and don't quote me exactly because I'm not going to explain this perfectly, but it's something like when they send these things out into outer space, like with these ridiculous, like, we sent it so many millions of miles out in space, all that is doing is collecting data, and then their NASA computers are translating that data on what it thinks it's looking at. So not everybody knows that even the pictures that are showing the Earth that are taken from something they sent out into space, it's not an actual photograph. It is computer generated, and they admit that.
Yep. There's a whole artist team at NASA. There's a whole art team, and they paint clouds and paint water. If you go look at that video that they showed us of the back of the moon, take a closer look at that video. They said they captured the back of the moon. Zoom into that moon as it's going across the Earth. You can see the green screen appear on the edges of the moon as it passes in front of the Earth. And this is official NASA video.
Yeah, so just to put it out there, that just do your own research on this stuff, because we've been trained to believe a certain thing. So again, these questions that like, even the thing with the Earth, like I grew up my whole life seeing picture of the Earth. Oh yeah, and then found out, you mean that's not real? It's a computer generated. So there's not any actual real photograph of the Earth. It's all just them taking data and then dissecting, or not dissecting, but then trying to figure out what that data is saying. So like the data is telling them what it's reporting, and they're drawing, the machine is basically just drawing out what the data is that is being fed. So it's not an actual real picture, and it's computer generated. And therefore, at the same time, it can be obviously manipulated as well as far as what that data actually is. But just some things for people to look into.
Right. One thing you'll never hear them address is why the land on the Earth matches the land on the moon as far as the shapes of the Maria. They'll never touch that. They can't touch that. It's a smoking gun. The land should not match the moon. You should not be able to navigate around the Earth looking at the moon. And you can. 1,000%. It's a smoking gun. They'll never touch that. They say it's dried hot lava on the moon. The lava just dried, just like, Taiwan, and looks like all the islands in Australia. It's just old hot lava that just dried exactly like the geography of the Earth. Absolute nonsense.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff I'm gonna have to look into because I'm not familiar with a lot of this stuff. But yeah, definitely appreciate the conversation, and it gives me a break of taking something a little bit more interesting and light instead of, like, again, the darkness of Watchtower that I, again, apparently I'm good at, so I get stuck doing it all the time. But thank you, and I'll put the link to your channel so you can check out Byron's channel. I'll put the links on it, and he does got some interesting content. And it's I think I said this before when I mentioned you, is that you're into the conspiracy stuff, but you still have a belief and parts of the Bible. So that's good, because it's a good balance. Because like I said, I personally given up on the Bible, but I know a lot of my subscribers do still have faith in the Bible. So I think they'll appreciate what you're bringing to the table too, because you still got that respect that I know a lot of people are still interested in.
Yes, and I feel like after being involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses, it's easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, don't throw the baby out. Research it. I think I heard you say in one of your videos that God sent bears to rip apart kids and stuff like that. But if you actually look at things like that from the original scriptures, these are not children. Look at the Hebrew word for them. They were a pain of young adults. There were young adults. And if you look at the original scriptures, these were a gang of young adults who are antagonizing and attacking these people. So it's not like a bunch of children. I know, because that sounds horrific. Can't have a loving God if he's ripping apart children. It's not talking about children. Look at the original. And that goes with anything that you think don't make sense in the scripture. Anything that paints God or the creator in a bad light, go back and look at the original Hebrew and Greek scriptures and you'll be surprised.
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff because I do have a lot more questions too, but that's a theory that I haven't really heard. I mean, I did see some. I don't know if it was you or not, but somebody did make a comment letting me know that about saying that they were grown-ups. But there's a lot of stuff too, like even just the stoning of children and how like a man could have 50 wives and have sex with all of them, but if a woman, if she got a second husband, oh, stone her to death, right? But so there's a lot of stuff like that, but anyway, like again, I've said this before publicly that I'm not even opposed to the Bible. It's just the fact that like after I let Watchtower brainwash me and tell me I can't question things, now I won't accept anything that makes sense to me. So
that makes sense. Check it out.
So when Christians can answer some of my questions, I will listen to it. And if it's reasonable, I'll say, okay, that I'll look into that. But anyway, yeah, thank you again, and I appreciate you coming here and having a different type of conversation that will also open up the minds of my followers.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. You do a great job on breaking things down. You are a very smart man, and I appreciate the work you do exposing this governing body and a lot of the information that you're putting out. I think that if the mass majority of people saw what you're doing, they would have been left this organization a long time ago. You said you have a video that could shut down Watchtower, and I 100% agree with that.